Hopefully we don't have a fire or anything like that to worry about, so we'll be sitting in. He's a fireman, so he can put
him out for 40 years. I never started one. Wow. Potato chips work great. They work too hard to keep.
All right. Well, I guess that's all we've got to say right now. We'll probably have more later. Hope you all have a good time. When the stores are open, come over and spend lots of money. We got a lot of neat stuff. You or Renee got anything you want to say now? Hang on.
I hope you all have as good of a time as the committee has had getting to know one another and putting this meet together. I can honestly say this was actually very, very enjoyable. Meeting the personalities, blending the personalities together, and I think we've accomplished a lot.
Yeah,
I think it's a great program for you guys. So.
Okay.
Renee's got some housekeeping stuff he wants to talk about. And just real quick, these two guys right here, Renee LaVoice and David Huelsing, are the ones that put most of this together, done all the legwork. As far as I'm concerned, they've done one heck of a job, and I really appreciate it. Hopefully I don't have to get the butter out so they can get through the door.
Okay, so our first presenter up this evening is Dave Huelsing with the St. Louis Suburban Service, all the commuter service in and out of here. Sorry, Burlington guys, I'm also a Burlington route member. They didn't run commuter service here. Chicago is where they had all their commuter service, but you'll enjoy the show anyway, hopefully. You'll learn something about St. Louis, and that's why you're here, right? We're here to learn about railroad history. We're historical societies. So take it away, Dave.
All right. So, like I said, St. Louis Suburban Service, several different railroads operated commuter service. We'll run through a couple of them briefly. Mostly we'll be focusing on the MOPAC one, obviously. It went by a couple different names. Some people called it, as you can see, the Pacific Local, Pacific Eagle, Kirkwood Eagle.
The Pacific Local ran out to Pacific?
It did go out to Pacific, yeah. There's just an example, one of the timetables. That's just showing what we'll be going through here. So that map's showing there were 3 different Missouri Pacific commuter lines at one time. There was one going south all the way down to DeSoto. We'll just run that one out to the county line. And then there was one that went west, originally all the way out to Washington, then to Pacific. And then there was one that went out to Creve Coeur Lake. This map here that just shows the local streetcar service in 1904. You can see they had tracks going all throughout the city. That's at the time of the World's Fair also, and World's Fair is at the top of the screen there, the Forest Park area. Wabash ran a commuter line from Union Station, which is down here at the bottom, all the way out to St. Charles. That's a 1893 Wabash timetable. And that's a little bit later one, 1906 Wabash timetable. So Wabash discontinued its service 1933. That's just showing what was in the newspaper at the time they discontinued the service. And then this map's showing you both the Frisco and the MOPAC ones. As you can see, they pretty much ran parallel. They had a lot of the same station names along the way. They both ended up out in Pacific. So showing the Frisco timetable there. This is from Museum Transport Collection, 1896. 1904 Frisco timetable. And this one's showing a Union Station timetable at the bottom. You can see the different suburban services and then all the different Frisco trains that left out of this station. Frisco ended its service December 1932. Newspaper article there kind of talks about how their prices went up and their equipment was old and very dated, whereas MOPAC had more recently updated its equipment. So again, showing the parallel routes. During the World's Fair, Union Station here, there was a Wabash commuter train that ran in a circle just every hour around the city. But this is also showing Mopec and Frisco did get to the World's Fair up through this connection here. All right, so here's a fairly early 1866 Pacific Railroad. At the time, it wasn't called Pacific, Missouri. It was called Franklin, later named after the railroad. Another early timetable. Here's an 1888 Iron Mountain. That's showing the southern route. A couple more early timetable and an employee suburban pass. (1904) timetables. Here's 1914. You can see Kirkwood Station there's on the timetable cover. Again, Kirkwood Station on the cover. Here's the Union Station timetable again. I got an example of it on the floor there, but you can see all the Mopec trains that left out of here and all the Frisco ones, and then this is the full timetable here. There's Burlington, but no commuter service there. 1953, getting towards the end of service, a lot fewer stops than there were earlier on. Over the years, the station stops changed quite a bit, so a complete history is fairly hard to document every station because they change so often. And here's the last year's timetable. So if we go through the equipment a little bit, don't have much on the very early equipment, but this is 1941. You can see they did have a combine car there that delivered some mail. And these are all either Joe Colias or Wayne Lehman photos from the MPHS collection. That's at Kirkwood on the turntable. So 1924, 17 new cars were purchased by Mopec. This is from the Employee magazine. Originally they were a solid dark color. You can see the seats there. I think it's something like 133 people sit in one car. I mean, it's huge. They really crammed them in there. When you're at the museum tomorrow, you'll see this car, or one like it.
This is commuter?
Commuter car, yeah. And then here's the combine car. And the inside, this is the mail baggage area. But wicker seats. 3 on one side, 2 on the other, supposedly. But, I mean, nowadays we'd say it was 2 and 1. No legroom. Makes an airplane look roomy. Okay, this is showing the mail service and then the stops where they did drop mail. It was closed pouch mail. They just kicked the mail bag out at the station stop. 1942. Oh, this is showing where they were using a 462 that day instead of the smaller locomotive. Station at Tuxedo Park. A couple more shots. Okay, here you go. February 1952 was the first time they ran the diesel. The newspaper article talks about how it fooled the commuters because nobody could hear the train coming. And then you can see they repainted the cars into the Eagle colors too around that same time.
There's an alcohol and you couldn't hear it?
Huh? I don't know that that's actually the one that was used that day, but...
Okay.
Sometimes you'll see smoke though.
That's at Webster Road Station. Still got the mail car on there. Rankin Avenue Coach Yard. 1960. Last day of service, December 15th, 1961. That's going over the bridge at McCausland. That's the last train. All right, so we'll just run the routes a little bit and show some of the different stations along the way. Obviously, we're starting here, St. Louis Union Station. As you can see, it was a pretty busy place back in the day. That photo was pretty much taken probably right outside these doors here. It wasn't all open like it is now. These were the doors out to the train shed, which would have been right outside here. It was the only train that pulled in forward into the train shed. All the other ones pulled in backwards. But you can see a pretty large group of people there in 1955 getting off. A lot of the photos are from Wayne Lehman. He was a photographer for the local newspaper, the Post-Dispatch. We ended up with a lot of his negatives in the MPHS archives. Showing the timetable. So all 3 commuter trains stopped at Tower Grove. That was the first stop. That's also Tower Grove from the backside. You can see the steps going down to the platform.
Persistent.
Not now.
Here's a, this is the Frisco Tower Grove, and then back here's the Mopac Tower Grove station, so they were real close together. This was the opening of the viaduct, 1915, over Tower Grove. All right, so we'll, first from Tower Grove, we'll take it down the Iron Mountain, and we're just going to run it to the end of the St. Louis County line. There's an 1886 timetable showing the different station stops at the time. There's 1904. As you can see, the stations do change a bit. Two trains daily there. This station was called Elwood. That one didn't last very long. That's a 1902 photo. This is the Oak Hill station, kind of an interesting round structure. Carondelet, also a similar kind of round structure. This one's interesting. This is called Tucker Station. It's built along the bluff. This is the station here with the steps going down. Obviously, early photo, that didn't last long. Broadway, that,
It's not
yeah, not ADA accessible at all. Broadway, that was there for quite a while. Jefferson Barracks, I don't know how many of you know what Jefferson Barracks is. It was a military depot, or a military station, dates back to before the Civil War. This is one of the earlier stations there. This building, I think, survived into about the 1970s. Now it's a county park, basically. That's the Cliff Cave stop, just a little, you can see they got the switch outside, just a little flag stop, really. And then from there, we'll just go back to Tower Grove and start going west. So now we'll take it from Tower Grove, and then we'll run it up to Creve Coeur.
Where's the museum?
The Museum of Transport? Barrett Station is the museum. That's the grounds the museum sits on. And we're over here at Union Station right now. Cheltenham was the first stop past Tower Grove, kind of a industrial factory kind of area. Incidentally, that when the Pacific Railroad was built, that was the first track laid was from downtown to Cheltenham. That's the Howard Station, again, another kind of industrial area. Ellendale, starting to get into the suburbs a little bit, kind of a neat little stone structure. This supposedly is the first ticket from Ellendale. It's in the MPHS archives. This is the back of the ticket. It's all kind of hand-drawn. As you can see, it's kind of faded out. And then this is also another St. Louis to Ellendale ticket. Maplewood. A couple other shots of Maplewood. This is Lake Junction. So this is where it split off and went out to Creve Coeur, or continue to go west of Creve. So this here's Lake Junction. We're going to take it out to Creve Coeur right now. Most of these were just flag stops. I don't have pictures of any of this, but we do have Creve Coeur, so we'll get up to that. But there were actually 2 Creve Coeurs at the lake. The train went up there and then took the wide, turned around, came back. But this is out at Creve Coeur Lake. A lot of people went out there for weekends to hang out on the lake, do some boating or whatever they did out there. That's just showing the timetable along the Creve Coeur branch. There's another one. Mostly Sunday trains, but they did have daily service out there. All right, now we're back at Lake Junction. We're going to start heading west. Tuxedo Park is the next station. This building's still there. You can go see that still today. Right now, there's an architect that has his office in there, but kind of a neat little stone building. There's another shot of Tuxedo. It was kind of built into this subdivision here, a little ledge right there, but like I said, it's still there. This map's showing Webster Groves. These are all the trains stations through Webster Groves. These are the Frisco ones. These are the Mopac ones. They like trains in Webster Groves. Not anymore, probably. This is the Webster Park station. Originally, supposedly, this was the pro shop or house or whatever for a golf course, I think, originally. This tells the story about Annie Dorr. She was the station agent at Webster Park. She lived above the depot. She worked for about 50 years, if I recall, for the railroad, and that's where she worked. Her family lived upstairs. This is the Webster Grove station. That building is still there. It's a daycare center now.
For her?
No. That's Webster Groves again. This is Glendale. I do not know if that's the Mopac or the Frisco Glendale. That's the only picture of Glendale I've ever seen, and I don't actually know which one that is, and that probably changed to a different building later on. Oakland. Woodlawn, kind of a odd little structure.
Literally Spanish mission style.
All right, so this is the Kirkwood map. These are showing the station stops through Kirkwood, and then these are the Frisco ones through here. So, as you can see, some of the names are even the same as the stations. But you can also see how close they are. I mean, they're less than a mile apart. Another one showing Kirkwood. Okay, here's the Kirkwood station. That building's still there, still served by Amtrak. Volunteers from the city of Kirkwood run the station still. Some early Kirkwood tickets. That's the inside. Looks still pretty similar today. That's kind of how it sits now. This is Barrett's. When you go out to the Museum of Transport tomorrow, this building is still there. You can see it, can't go in it. It's the, they use it, the wood shop for doing woodwork for restoration. That's what they use it for now. This is kind of an unusual photo. There's got kind of a gabled roof on it. That's the only photo I've ever seen that has the gabled roof, but I do believe it's the same building. We have the ticket date or die from Barrett's in the Mopac archives, along with a ticket from the last day of service there, December 15th, 1961. That's stamped on the back of this ticket. Okay, that's how it sits today at the museum. So, if you're going to the museum tomorrow, you can see it. Valley Park, that depot I think got torn down in the 70s or so. Castlewood, that was a very early depot. It didn't last much longer. Jedburgh. Glencoe was a stop, but not later on. Right now, that trackage, it was after they realigned the track. The old right-of-way is still being used by a miniature steam operation called the Wabash, Frisco, and Pacific. That's Eureka. Early photo of Allenton. This is Pacific. Technically, that was a Union station because it was used by both railroads. A couple different photos showing Pacific from some different angles. And that's probably 1970s or so. I think it got torn down in the 70s also. And that's K Tower, where the train overnighted. That's 1961 timetable. So you can see the crew uniform there and some of the passengers on the train, some of the engine crew. A lot of these pictures were taken towards the end of service or in the last couple days of operation. These were photos from the newspaper.
Looks like Harry Truman.
It does. Story that was in the Mopac Lines magazine about one of the conductors who worked a pretty long time on the suburban train.
What's the year on that?
1930. He retired in 1930. But a lot of the people, same people rode the trains every day, had relationships with the crew, knew them. And it's showing some of the passengers. As you can see, it was pretty crowded on there. There was a club called the Rattlers Club that hung out on the train, rode, you know, they rode it every day. They called themselves the Rattlers Club. But like if they'd throw parties on the train, if somebody was retiring or something like that, they'd throw a party for them. So here we are, July 1961. Mopac wants to increase the fares. People aren't too happy about it. So that's July 1961, beginning of the end. December 15th, 1961, end of service letter from the railroad. Displaced commuters try a bus. So this is just some of, there was quite a bit of newspaper coverage when they discontinued. As you can see, some of the same photos here that I had. But this was just all stuff that was in the newspaper. They had a whole big fold-out section on the commuter train ending. So last day of service, the sign that was here at Union Station being given to the Museum of Transport. I think one of these people is Dr. Roberts from the museum. The museum is in the library over at the Museum of Transportation now. That sign's still there. Letters to the editor. Some of you may recognize this guy. He wasn't too thrilled. I'll leave it up there a minute if you want to read it.
What's the name, David? Those are the sitting back.
Joe Elias. So today you can still walk through one of the old commuter cars that's at the Museum of Transport. Here's what it looks like today. They got a couple exhibit cases on the one side, but you can walk through it. Even sit in the seats if you want to.
Those seats flop back and forth.
They do, yeah. That's it. Anybody have any questions or anything?
So that little narrow seat on the right is the two-man seat?
That's a two-man seat. I think,
People were not thinner back then.
yeah, I think the seating was supposed to be 133 people or something on it, which I don't know how you could cram that many in there. Yeah.
For those of us not from around here, who was Joe?
He was a writer, photographer, wrote several books, Mopac Power, Frisco Power, several others.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
How many of those commuter lines still exist?
None of them are running now.
I mean, not as commuters, but.
There's no commuter service in St. Louis
No,
now.
he needs the tracks.
The tracks.
Oh, the tracks?
The Wabash.
I think they're all there.
The core line's pretty much gone, but most of the other tracks are still there. I mean, you can ride Amtrak up if you want. Yeah.
One of your slides said something about Westford Street Line. Do they run commuters east out of Union Station by the Westford Street Yard and down that way? Down to the Iron Mountain line, connected with the Iron Mountain line?
Did it run on Westford, I think?
Yeah, but that predates Union Station. So the Iron Mountain had their own station kind of on the riverfront, something like Poplar Street in that area. So they ran trains that way. Then later they made a connection from around, but when they merging with the MOPAC and that in the early 1900s and everything was running in and out of Union Station, then they went this way down the Oak Hill branch. But very early on, like the early times they showed, they were going down the left ones.
And the Iron Mountain's a whole much longer, it changed around quite a bit and it's a whole nother story to tell. I just threw a little sampling in there.
That's a whole nother subject.
Yeah.
When did that Greenport line get taken out? Because I remember as a kid living in Brentwood, we'd ride our bikes and they would go over to our Rock Hill Road and we'd go west on the old.
You know, like when they tore the tracks out?
Yeah, there were no tracks.
Do you remember, Renee?
I think east of there.
There were tracks into, let's see, they cut back across Lindbergh in the late 60s, and then there was tracks still going in Rock Hill to that material supply.
Right, yeah, there was before, yeah.
It still comes now up to Manchester Road.
Okay.
Yeah, part of it's still there.
So that industrial lead is still at Manchester Road.
Any other questions? Okay. Do we want to take a break, or did you want to run your bridge program?
I can run my
Hang
program.
on.
It looks like Kevin might have something to
Oh,
say.
you got something?
Hang on.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you Burlington guys are used to this, but us MOPAC guys are not. David, I'm going to present this plaque to you in honor of your
Well, thank you.
presentation just now.
All right.